To the City of Petoskey City Council for May 1st, 2023. Please rise with me for a pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
City Clerk Sarah Beck, would you please call roll?
Demore, present. Shields,
Here.
Wagner,
Here.
Walker, present. Murphy.
Present. We have a quorum. Next, I would like to read a proclamation declaring May 1st as Arbor Day in the City of Petoskey. What?
It's a beautiful day.
Don't look out that window. Now you're supposed to envision a beautiful maple tree, sun, laying at the beach, okay?
Palm trees.
Palm tree,
Marguerite.
okay.
Almost Cinco de Mayo.
That's 4 days away. Whereas in 1872, J. Sterling Morton proposed to the Nebraska Board of Agriculture that a special day be set aside for the planting of trees. And whereas the holiday called Arbor Day was first observed with the planting of more than 1 million trees in Nebraska. And whereas Arbor Day is now observed throughout the nation and the world. And whereas trees can reduce erosion of our precious topsoil by wind and water and lower our heating and cooling cost, moderate the temperature, clean the air, produce oxygen, and provide habitat for wildlife. And whereas trees are a renewable resource, gives us paper, wood for our homes, fuel for our fires, and countless other wood products. And whereas trees in our city increase property values, enhance the economic vitality of business areas, and beauty in our community. And whereas trees, wherever they are planted, are a source of joy and spiritual renewal. Now hereby I, John Murphy, Mayor of the City of Petoskey, do hereby proclaim May 1st, 2023, Arbor Day in the City of Petoskey. I urge all citizens to celebrate the Arbor Day and to support efforts to protect our trees and woodlands. And furthermore, I urge all citizens to plant and care for trees to gladden the heart and promote the well-being of this and future generations. Signed, May 1st, 2023. I'd like to give you one quick update. I had the opportunity, we, as you know, have Arbor Day now planned. And it will be May 13th from 1 till 4 at the Winter Sports Park. These posters will be put into city businesses downtown and other locations. We gave 4 awards through the Crooked Tree. Each of them got $50 of downtown bucks to spend for designing a poster of art for the project. And they came from Petoskey High School, Petoskey Middle School, I think Concord. It was a variety of schools that were selected by the Arts Center to win. And so we will have an arborist on hand who will help you identify for trees for if they have disease, how to trim some trees. Eric Hemingway from the Little Traverse Band of Adawa will lead a group walk to discuss native plants and their relationships to the Adawa. Tree climbing demonstrations, which I'm not sure if either of you are interested in doing. Tree transplant giveaways, and there's no registration required. So I hope that you have the opportunity to do this. As you know, we are Tree City, USA. I'd like to give you a couple facts, though, that I think are interesting. Nebraska, which was the #1 place to have this, has only 3% tree coverage or woodlands in the whole state. They're the lowest state in the union for tree coverage. We are at 56%. Of course, we follow Maine, New Hampshire, some of those northern states. But I just want to share that. One large tree provides enough oxygen during the whole year for 4 people. One tree large, 4 people. So that's the very importance of having trees, as the oxygen that we also get in the cleaning of the carbon dioxide that's in the air. So no further stuff to give you other than that. Please do attend. Mr. Moore.
I just want to give a shout out to the League of Women Voters. Perhaps you will do that, Mayor.
Yes, the League of Women Voters are intimately involved in this project. They are helped to lead it through Ann Scott, has been very intimately involved with this project, with this art stuff, as well as Liz Erlewine and Megan DeWint are very involved with the art piece of getting the art going. And I hope next year that we will get to with the schools and we will do something like a 5th grade poetry on trees or something to include that. But it's trying to get kids involved with this. But if it wasn't for the League of Women Voters, this would not be happening, because they came to us with some project ideas on trees. And so Shane and I sat down and we said, hey, and along with Kendall, and said, let's empower these people. This is great. So thank you to the League of Women Voters for doing this. And they will also be attending that day as well. So thank you again. Anything else on that? Okay, moving right along. By the way, the word arbor in Latin means tree. I learned that. After 4 years of Latin, I forgot it. Next is a presentation by our district library director, Valerie Meyerson, concerning the Petoskey District Library 2022 annual report. The button to greet. There we go. Thank you and welcome.
Oh, thank you. And thank you for giving me a little time on your agenda. Today, I'm here to just give you kind of the roundup of our 2022 and a little bit of 23 happenings at the library and where we're at. Currently, we're still slowly working our way back towards our pre-COVID numbers, but every year we're making headway on getting back to those same numbers. We had a pretty good year this year. We saw a 4% increase in our circulation, but our visits are up 26% from last year. And the other numbers I always like to share with council and other folks, because people always wonder about computer usage, but our computer usage was up 39% this year over last year. And our wireless usage is way up as well. And wireless usage stayed pretty high throughout COVID, because we expanded our coverage and people can park around us and sit in the grounds and whatnot and get broadband. So that was nice to see that number as well go up. A couple other things I like to highlight, just because a lot of people don't know some of the more unique services that we offer. In 2022, we proctored 15 exams for students that were doing online courses and needed a proctored exam. And we also offer notary services, and we notarized 88 documents last year. So that's a nice service that we do at no charge to the public.
No charge.
No charge for notary services. Yeah. So the other thing that we really kind of bolstered last year, we really brought the programming back up to what our normal numbers are after COVID. Last year, we offered 363 programs, which was way up, of course, from the previous year, because we weren't really doing in-person programming in 2021. But we had a lot of attendance for all ages, family programs, toddler programs for seniors. So we're really, really busy with that and continuing. The other nice thing that we did last year, and we expanded our outreach services. So we're really making the way and getting out into the community and expanding what we do if people can't get to us. So with help from an Emmett County Senior Millage Grant, we expanded our visits to senior living facilities. We had 156 visits and talked to 792 people, bringing them books to the senior living facilities. And we were also able to expand our BiblioBag program, which is a service for homebound people. So either you're temporarily or permanently homebound and you can't get to the library, you can sign up for BiblioBag where we'll mail you items directly to your home at no charge. So that's was really nice that we were able to expand those. The other kind of unique service that we're offering through our outreach program is our Books Broaden the View program, which is where we provide books to the inmates at the county jail. I don't know if you're aware, but the county jail removed their library for their inmates. And so there's really no access to reading materials. And so with a partnership with the Friends of the Library and some grant funds or donated funds that we received, we were able to provide inmates books directly to them. That's been actually really successful. We had we did 8 visits, I think, last year because we started in, we didn't start quite until the spring maybe, but we visited 178 inmates, bringing them books. And speaking of grants, we received additional grant funding last year as well. Our favorite one was our National Endowment for the Arts grant. We had a Big Reads grant program where we brought Joy Harjo and her American Sunrise to the community and had great programming and great discussions around that. That was a lot of fun. And Lindsay was saying she's got, do you have a pen?
No, I got the book right next to my bed. It's nice to read poetry.
It is. It is. It's really a wonderful, lovely book. So we also received a NASA at My Library grant. So we've been doing a lot of STEAM and STEM programming for our teens and tweens with those funds. And then the Hestia Women's Giving Circle and the Library of Michigan and the Friends of the Library also provide the funding for our Growing Readers Together project, which, as you've heard before, is our program geared to K through 3rd graders. And we directly work with them, teaching them, tutoring them in their reading abilities. We have about a little over 70 students that we've worked with this past year. And it's really a great program. It's a partnership program with the school district, and it works really well for our kids. So that's nice that we're able to continue that with those grant fundings. A couple standout things happened last year and kind of the beginning of this year is our website. If you haven't seen that, please visit. We just did a big, huge revamp of the website, and it looks great. And it's much easier to navigate and find the information that people are looking for. And then, of course, we had the Americans in the Holocaust exhibit. Hopefully you all, I think most of you actually got in to see that. And that was a huge success for us. And that was January, February of 2023. We had 28 volunteer docents who were trained to host 87 separate tours that included 13 schools and 7 adult groups for over 1,100 people getting guided tours through the exhibit. We also had about 1,200 people just come individually to look at the exhibit while it was in the library for about 5 weeks. We had it. Our circulation of Holocaust and World War II materials was up 97% from what we normally circulate in those areas. Our door counts for that 5-week period was up 47%. And we hosted 3 movies, 3 lectures, and virtual book discussions throughout that exhibit time period. And it was truly a huge success, I think, for the community for us to participate in that. Leading up to the Holocaust exhibit, we partnered with Temple B'nai Israel to provide anti-Semitism programming and the history of anti-Semitism. And again, that was a big success in bringing more information to people that really don't know that much about anti-Semitism and the history of it and how it relates to what's happening today. And so we were glad to be able to provide that in partnership with the temple. We're hoping to do similar programming this year as well with them. Another special program that we did last year that I think some of you actually attended. Black Leaders Detroit partners with different communities throughout the state, and in their Ride for Equity, they will once again be in Petoskey to do another Speak for Yourself program. I'm inviting all of you, and hopefully you can bring a friend to attend that. For those that were there, I think John was there, and I think Tina was there. It was really a great program where you just sit and have frank discussions with African Americans. We don't get opportunity like that here in Petoskey very often. And these, the people, they're riders coming, they're biking from Detroit, and they're just very open and frank. And it was a really interesting discussion. So this year we're going to be hosting that again on May 26th at 4 p.m. in the Carnegie. If you want, a bunch of us are riding. We'd love to have you join us. We're going to ride the leg right before Petoskey starts in East Point that morning. Eastport, sorry. What did I say? Oh, Eastport. So it's like 35 miles. Yeah, thank you, Emily. And so if anybody's a rider and would like to join us, we would love to have you do that. You just go to the Ride for Equity website and you can register there. But it's really a worthwhile, if you want to just come to the discussion, it's worth your time. And you can please bring a friend. The last thing I wanted to talk about today was another standout service that we started last year was our student trustee program. So the library board really was looking for ways of getting more input from kids about library services, and discussion started about bringing on a student trustee, and some other governmental agencies are kind of doing this right now. And we looked into it and discussed it at the board level and put together a whole process and packet for bringing on a student trustee. And their term is runs June to May. And so right now we're in the recruiting stages for our next student, but we were really lucky. We had Isabel Dunn join our board last June. She's a senior at Harbor Springs High School. And it was a great experience, not only for us, because we had input, we had this young person sitting on our board. It was a great experience for her. She learned a ton. And I was hoping she was going to be here today to explain it to you herself, but we did an exit interview with her, and she really appreciated the ability to sit on as a trustee and participate on the board. Now, this is a non-voting position, so it's not really official, so to speak, but she does get the floor and she would provide input. And I'll tell you, it was really nice for us and I don't know if you're aware of some of the challenges that we've been facing at the library board in some of the displays and services and books that we have in the facility. And Isabel was, I think, really crucial in supporting what the board is doing and what the library is doing. And she was very vocal, and she had some friends come to meetings to share their thoughts on what was going on and what was being said. And it was really a wonderful experience on both sides. And Anne is here. You could probably, I don't know, you would agree with that, I would think. Yeah. It was a lot. She did. It was just a great experience. So we're really excited. We're hoping to get our second student trustee starting in June, and they'll be going through interview process in the next couple of weeks. And with that, I gave you the annual report that has some other highlights as well. It has our statistic and financial roundup there on the back. And if you have any questions, I'd be happy to entertain those. And if you think of something later, you guys all know where to find me.
Did you introduce your board member next year?
Yes, I can. Sorry, I thought everybody knew her. Ann Ingalls is one of the library board members. She's been around for a while. What was this, your 8th year, 10th year? 12th year. So, but she was able to hand over the chairmanship, the presidency to Kim Block as our new president. So she served really well for us. And I'm really thankful that she's still on the board and hasn't stepped away yet. So.
Story that she brings is it's so important. I know because you have many new people on the board. And I think Sue brings in that institutional history and knowledge. And that I know we talked about that as far as that's so important. And so thank you for continuing to serve on the board.
Yeah, Ann does a great job. And it is, we have a very new board. And so having that historical perspective was really important.
Somebody else probably wants to speak before me, but I will tell you, I'm speaking for council, myself and our staff. We are so impressed by what you have done with this library since you came over from Charlevoix. We feel very fortunate that we brought you our way to the east. And when you look at the stuff that you do, I liked your presentation because I kind of jotted down. It kind of helps me remember what you're saying rather than just looking at a screen. And so it was so good. But I just think from the Holocaust, which was, I know you all saw that, to even taking care of inmates in the jail that they got rid of the library there. I think it's you guys reach so many people, from the youth to the disadvantaged to the elderly with your deliveries. I can't say enough about our public library. I don't know of any place that could brag more about what you guys have done. So thank you. And
thank you. Thank you. And I would be remiss before I left, if I didn't give you an update about what's happening right now. I don't know if you've noticed the front of the building is not looking great. And so we just we're in the midst of a bid project to basically replace the front entry of the building. That front facade has to come down. Next time you're driving up the road, look at the ramp. It's really falling apart. So we have a big project that's going to be doing a lot of brickwork and masonry work at the library and at the Carnegie, because while we're here, we figured we'd have them do the Carnegie as well. That's got some issues over there. So we're going to be doing some repair work, hopefully this summer. I don't know when it'll be done, but.
Mr. Moore.
Well, I won't repeat what the mayor's already said. But what I do want to say is that every time I'm at the library, and I hear this from other folks too, it is such a welcoming environment for everyone. The staff is highly competent in all that they do when we outreach for assistance. And an example of that today was the Ask the Lawyers event that we held there, which was seamless with people in the community being able to access services they wouldn't otherwise be able to. So deep gratitude for all that you do there, and deep respect as well, because it's a long list. So thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else with Mr. Wagner?
Thank you, Mayor. And without repeating anything that was already said, Val, I think you're just an exemplary leader in our town. And it's not just the library, but we're on Rotary together. And she's doing that, plus president of the Rotary and a lot of other things. And I know I talk, and I think we all talk a lot about collaboration to getting things done. And the examples you listed, that's how to get things done. It's just an incredible example. And a couple of weeks ago, I shared your story of hosting the Easter egg hunt, where books were given away to 2 to 6-year-olds. And so thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
Okay. Again, thank you.
You are welcome. I have a great job.
Please come back again next year, because I know we're going to get new updates.
Yes, always. Thank you.
She does sponsor that ride, and it was very moving to attend what she set up. And I know Tina, we were very it was very moving to sit down with people of a different racial, and have real frank discussions about it. It was kind of interesting because the gentleman that rode a bike, he had bike problems. He was on Thumb Lake Road, got separated from the whole group by several miles. And he was out all by himself riding, and he said, you know, I now know what it must feel like to come as a Caucasian into the inner city or see something like that, because I had this moment of where am I? And I thought, wow, what a great experience to share, to give you a feel of what it must be like. So thank you. Now, consent agenda time. It's the adoption of a proposed resolution that would confirm approval of the following: April 17th, 2023, regular session city council meeting minutes, as well as acknowledge a receipt of a report concerning certain administrative transactions that have occurred since April 17th, 2023. I take it the city council, do they have any concerns, questions? Mr. Moore.
I just have two small items in the minutes. On page 6, under consent agenda, the first paragraph, point of clarification. I asked last time that the minutes be amended to add Emmett County as a declined guarantor, that they declined to be a guarantor, that they weren't going to be a guarantor. So that's one point of clarification. And then the second is on page 9, when we were talking about the contract. This is under approve NELA grant administrator contract. It's the second paragraph. And the second and third line read, heard from those in favor of including insurance errors and omissions insurance in the contract. That was actually me. And I asked that we inquire of the contract drafter if indeed insurance errors and omissions should be included. So I would ask that those two corrections be made.
Did you get those, Sarah?
Tina, can you say that again regarding you inquired if the contract drafter would do what?
If instead of saying that I was in favor of including it, I was inquiring if the folks that drafted the contract thought that errors and omissions should be included. Is that helpful? Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Council, anything else, questions or concerns? Otherwise, I'd entertain a motion as amended.
So moved.
Second. I have a motion from Mr. Moore and a second from Mr. Wagner. Any other discussion? I turn to Sarah Beck for roll.
Moore,
Aye.
Wagner,
Yes.
Shields.
Yes.
Walker. Aye. Murphy.
Yes. Passes unanimously 5-0. Public comment. This is your opportunity to speak to the council. If you have something, you have a concern, or would like to address with us, give us some information on. And I see that we have somebody here. Could you introduce yourself? Give us your full name, full address, push the button for green. And Emily, it's yours.
Emily Meyerson. I live at 520 Cherry Street. And I'm here to talk about the Little Trevor's Wheelway. And I talked to Shane about, I don't know, a couple of weeks ago, and he thought I had some really good points and he wanted me to share them with you. So I thought I would do that. Most of you know, but I don't know if you all know that I have 25 years of history of building bicycle trails. So I can say I'm an expert at this. This information is coming from somebody with a lot of experience. I've worked with all the grant funders, the Department of Transportation, Department of Natural Resources. So I know the personalities and I know a lot of the politics that go behind getting things done. So I just wanted to give you that. It's been 3 years since the wheelway washed out. And I remember specifically the day it washed out because it was during COVID, it was snowing and it was my birthday. And it was probably one of the worst days of my adult life. So I was just so sad to see this facility fall apart. So it's been 3 years. I talked to Shane, I hear you guys are working on it and there's grants going in and it looks like we're gonna hopefully find a solution eventually. But I also know from start to finish, the earliest you can get a trail built is 3 years. And realistically, we're looking at probably 5 years. Just again, from my experience, that'll be 8 years total without that connection. And the difference here and the reason why I'm so passionate about this is, you know, if it was just a recreation facility, and I don't mean that just like softly, but you could close it. It's not a big deal. But this trail is not a recreation facility. It's a transportation facility. And that's what makes these kind of bicycle trails different than your standard park. It's a very different thing. And to me, sometimes they get overlooked because parks should be dealing with it or someone else. But really, this is a different type of facility because it crosses the lines of both transportation and recreation. And in truth, that's why I made a career of it, because I was somebody as a planner who could see that vision and how these went together. So we're looking at 8 years and hopefully we get a great trail again. I believe that will happen. I believe you're dedicated to that. But we have people that can't get around on transportation. The city became involved with this trail because it connected Bay Harbor, a taxing entity, to the city of Petoskey, and you have the connection. We have no safe way to get people between those places. It's an equitable transportation facility. People who can't drive, who can't afford to drive, who don't choose to drive, they have no way to get between the two city pieces. And it's crazy to see people out there. You've all seen it. I know you have. I don't have to tell you that. You see people riding and going towards Charlevoix, it's not a big deal, but coming back, it is not safe because you either, to be safe, you need to cross the highway, which is almost impossible in the summer. So I'm here to say, like, impassioned plea to do more. I know you have asked. I know your staff has talked to MDOT and they say, no, we can't do this. I mean, I can hear it all. I don't know if you've been to a Lansing. MDOT's doing construction. They have a 2-way protected bike lane that they put in on a temporary basis. You can make temporary solutions that do not have to meet the federal standards. And that is what I think the city needs to be asking MDOT to do along US 31, is to find that solution. They can do it. It has been done. And to not take no for an answer. Because when somebody dies or someone gets hurt, it's like we need to step forward and push this through. This isn't, oh, it's just for a year. Or it's just for another year. It's going to be, we know realistically, 3 to 5 more years like this. We need to find a solution for our residents, for the people who live there, and for the people who come to visit, who want to be able to get between them. So that's why I was here. That's my passionate plea to really just to try to push more, push harder. Push to the next level. Don't just go to Gaylord, go to the next level, go to politicians, go to Pete Buttigieg in Traverse City. I mean, the trail is built with federal transportation dollars. It is a transportation facility. It provides MDOT with a non-motorized facility along their highway, which they keep trying to pretend isn't a big deal, but by law, they need to provide those facilities, and the city provided it for them, but they're not doing a whole lot to make something safe for us in a temporary way until that can be rebuilt. So.
Thank you.
Yep.
I know, Shane, can you speak to something on that? Is it true? I think we talked about this, that they were going to possibly put what are they, Bolins or all the way to East Park. Is that still availability?
That was our proposal back to MDOT on a temporary basis, and we thought we were making some headway, and they came back saying that they thought that would set a precedent for them that was not sustainable. So they did not allow us to continue that to East Park. They did say they would come in and double stripe the shoulder to get drivers' attention, maybe a little bit more.
That's not going to work.
This is obviously a balance, because I certainly, we have to have a partnership with MDOT, and they've been a good partner overall. And so I certainly don't want to, come in too heavy-handed and potentially skip my contacts, because these are the folks that I work with, Kendall works with, Mike works with, multiple times throughout the year. So skirting around people, going to other folks higher in the chain potentially could impact those relationships. But I understand and hear the concerns, and certainly safety is a big concern. We have talked about potentially working with owners, whether it's the county or others, to expand or extend the shoulder to get people more off the roadway on a, essentially widen the shoulder out to get people, off the roadway, off that white line, if you will. And that could be a solution that we have Beckett and Rader help us, work toward. But unfortunately, we're going to be using the same system that we've used in the last couple summers at this point, unless, again, we work with our state legislators to help us in this effort.
I have talked numerous times, as I know you have. We've met with Demoose. I've made contacts with our Bergman's office. It's a sad situation. Mr. Shields.
Thank you, Mayor. And it's when it comes to a safety issue, sometimes my belief is that we have to put safety first and do things that might be a little aggressive. So I don't know if we own bollards or if we can rent bollards, and if we get bollards out there, if the state's going to go to the effort of asking us to remove those after we've already put those out there, that's pretty bold move on our part and then on their part. I'm basically throwing things out there saying I'm a fan of being aggressive. I appreciate your comments, Emily. I understand, respect the collegiality we have to have in the state, but this is also on us as the leaders at this current time to make sure that I've seen it. I drive by and see a family on their bikes, and I'm like, oh gosh, that is I don't want that on my conscience, so I'm just going to push for aggressive protest.
I understand that we really, to put those out there ourselves, are inviting them then to come to the city and put stuff in the city that we may not be okay with through our city staff, our council. And I think hopefully we can continue to work and work with the legislative bodies that we have to see if we can continue to get funding for this.
Yeah, hopefully my idea there is like plan Z. We have A, B, and C to get to first. Yes, I agree.
I'm just concerned that we step on somebody's toes, as Shane mentioned. Then it's a tit for tat, and I don't want to get to a tit for tat with MDOT. I've done that in the past over a bridge and screwed up my relationships with some people. Miss Walker.
Yeah, thank you, Emily, for your comments. I'm wondering if it's more of a situation of asking for forgiveness later instead of permission first. Oftentimes, especially in this context, when you're dealing with a state entity, who's inspecting, who's really traversing the state looking for errors and oversight or those kind of things. I mean, I could tell you that that's the way that it is with Eagle for sure, because they're so short staffed. It's like, how are you ever supposed to implement any kind of policy with a staff of 5 people throughout the state? So I'm wondering if it's more of a situation of we just show bold leadership and install what we feel is the most safe thing that we need for this temporary bike path, and go from there.
Shane, your input on that?
Well, it's not our road. It's not a city road, obviously. So I would really hesitate having our staff out there installing equipment on a state roadway. By working collaboratively, we've been able to have MDOT kind of shoulder some of the burden on some of our
pre-work on restoring the trailway. You might have seen some MDOT equipment over there this week. They're drilling 3 monitoring wells within their right of way at their cost. That's their part of their contribution to this restoration, because they're obviously concerned about the sloughing of the bank as well. They have a large stake there as well. So, but by working collaboratively with them, they have taken it upon themselves. They have the equipment, they have the technology to go ahead and do that. We've got 3 more monitoring wells that we're going to install. This is valuable data for us, especially in wet weather like this, that we can watch to see what that water table is doing and how that impacts the stability of whatever we put back there. Because we want to make sure that this is the last time we address this issue. And we want to get it right. And what that looks like, we need the data to continue to monitor that.
Would you be okay if I contacted Pete Buttigieg, Traverse City?
Yeah, that's, using political muscle is certainly a tool in our toolbox. And if that's a desire to do that, then certainly we can continue to move down that road. Emily is correct. This is a long game. This is, even if we had the green light to start design work and say received the grant money, we're ready to start design in and of itself will take likely to the summer of 24, and then it's likely a 3-year construction period. So it's a long process. So it's probably something that we need to dive into a little bit more, and using political leverage would certainly be another tool to use.
Are you comfortable with me doing that, counsel?
Well,
Miss Wagner.
He's federal, right? So he's the Department of Transportation on the federal level. What about talking with Brad Whirligig or whatever his name is, the director at MDOT? I met him at the policy conference in Traverse City
I
in
will
January.
also make a call and request support on this from him as well, both of those people. Will that be okay? Would you like to draft a letter to him?
I'm okay with that.
We have done this in the past
Yeah.
over a bridge to the Department of Transportation. And it did not come across as an aggressive thing, but it came across as a point of issues of what are the issues here?
Yeah.
It was so simple. All of us on council at that point signed it. So it was not just one person, but it was all 5 of us signing it. Would you be willing to do that?
I'm going to say yes. I think the intent of something like that would to communicate our local perspective and the local concern, the high concern we have. So I would say yes.
Okay, Ms. Demore.
When I was down at CapCon last week, I think, the keynote speaker was from the Department of Transportation. So he works for Pete Buttigieg. And he was very effusive about reaching out to him if there were needs. And so I'm thinking he might be a good candidate for outreach.
Would you send me his information?
Yeah.
I'm willing to go to bat on this totally like you guys are, and let's see where we can take this. Mr. Wagner.
Thank you. A couple of points that came to mind, but Emily, thank you for your perspective on that. There was a discussion probably 6 weeks ago. It was not a formal meeting, but Shane and Kendall and myself. And the kind of heart to heart we had was we want to be able to sleep at night. We want to know we've done everything possible to make that safe. One of the things Kendall suggested, and I assume he's done it with Beckett and Raider, Shane, I'm not sure. It's probably due for an update anyway. I know he's got other priorities, but he kind of took us back to when there was the first washout, and then we had an engineering study done, and then we spent a long time getting a study done on the far side of the highway and had to bring 5 agencies together. And He said before all that happened, there was discussion about some alternatives right up by the road to make that trail safe, and he was gonna look into that with Beckett Raider. I think it'd be good to get an update on what those are, and I agree with these perspectives, and I want to talk to my County Commissioner Dave White, because he's very interested in this as part of his area as well, and I think if we focus that discussion on the safety element, we can get more than just us, because it's not our road, like Shane said.
Okay. Shane, would you draft a letter for us, or I'll draft it with you, that we can have everybody on city council sign?
Yeah, I'll put a rough draft together and
We'll go from there. Okay. You guys feeling good about it? I'm feeling good about this. We're becoming proactive, and I think that's the bottom line, is we got to be proactive. Okay. Emily, thank you for coming forward with this. Thank you. Anyone else in the public wish to make public comment at this point to council? If you do, please give me your full name and full address. Anyone online? We don't want to miss them.
No hands are up.
Okay. Now we move to the city manager's update. I'm going to turn it over to Shane Horn for that.
Okay, since this is our first meeting of the month, I want to highlight some staff birthdays and anniversaries, give them some recognition. So Ed Smith, Parks and Rec, his birthday next week. Mary Beauchamp with the library. Sarah Biscup with the library as well this month. Christine at the front counter downstairs in the finance department. And then Ricky Howard in Public Works, all celebrate May birthdays within the city staff. Work anniversaries this month as well. Alexis Peacock, one of our new hires in public safety, coming up on her 1-year anniversary this month. Audrey Plath, finance director, 8 years with the city. Stephen Colick, water, wastewater, and Gordon Standish, water, wastewater, both celebrating 17 years of service this month. And Scott Goziak, public safety, celebrates 25 years with us this month as well. We won't spend time on this. The mayor talked about this already. Certainly encourage folks to participate and attend our Arbor Day festivities on the 13th of May. Just quickly, updates project-wise, the lofts, we learned today, or we received today, the updated site plan for the lofts project. As you may recall, we had a special meeting with the developer and ownership group of this project. Planning Commission wanted a little bit of a softer look to make sure that it blends well with the surrounding neighborhood. I have not looked at this yet, but Lisa tells me we did receive the updated documents today, so they will be on the May 17th Planning Commission agenda. And I know they listened attentively to what planning commissioners had to say, so I'm assuming they checked those boxes for consideration. Maple Block still working through that with the developer, Brownfield. We did receive word that the Eagle Brownfield grant and loan proposal that we explored a few meetings back is still being evaluated and vetted. Likely we'll hear something yet this month to come back to this body to discuss further direction wise how we would like to proceed. So that is ongoing, multiple layers involved with that. City Park Grill project, we did receive the development agreement through MEDC last week. So we're finalizing our due diligence, environmental and historical reviews. All of our letters that we've sent out to all potential concerned groups would be due back on the 3rd of May, which is in a couple days. So once that process has reached its culmination. We expect that construction will start sometime in early June for that project. The former J.C. Penney, we did have a pre-construction meeting last week with the owners and contractors for that project. So that will start actually on the 8th of May with demo work, interior work. And so that's exciting to finally see some progress there with that project. And then at the same time, the same contractor will also be working with the owners on the Oprah site at 316, 318 Lake Street. They'll be working back and forth. There'll be the same contractor, obviously the same ownership group. And so they'll be working on both projects really at the same time concurrently. And then just wanted to show, I think a picture says it all here. Well, this was a project that we earmarked in our capital improvement plan to really open up the view shed at that entrance of Mitchell Street. So obviously the picture to the top left is the before picture. The picture on the bottom right is kind of the after picture of kind of opening up, removing some trees that started to overtake the site. You couldn't even see the wayfinding signage anymore. We kind of increased the sidewalk, kind of put more of a straight run on the sidewalk, connecting the sidewalk area so that you can see the new sidewalk there. We added 3 more street lights to match what was obviously in our downtown corridor. We will be working with the garden club to do some plantings around the signs, and then we'll add some gooseneck lights to the main sign there here in the next week or two when that material comes in. The site's been sodded, obviously, the irrigation is in place. So, and then just looking as you make that turn, looking at that view and getting that first glimpse of our wonderful historic downtown is pretty exciting to see. So thank you to Mike and his staff and his crew and his subs for all their great work. This was something that we had a very condensed schedule because we wanted this work to get done before all of our visitors arrive. So I'm very pleased with how quickly we were able to get on this project. All of our contractors and all of our supporting networks within the city that we count on and rely on really came through for us and did a wonderful job. So I'm hoping that everybody enjoys it. And it's been I think it's a nice project to get completed. Questions for me?
Council, any questions? Ms. Walker?
Thank you, Mayor. Thanks, Shane, for your report. Can you tell us what, with the J.C. Penney building moving forward, what the plan for that building will be?
So that'll be condos above. Trying to remember, I think there's 9 total condos. Parking will be self-contained below. They'll have, obviously, the whole facade will be updated.
First floor.
First, the retail, there will be a retail. They haven't identified that yet. Likely they were thinking a banking institution or, but that has not been identified as of yet. So, but there will be
commercial. First floor
will be retail. Yeah, there's no housing on the first floor.
Parking. Then
Parking is in the lower level.
underneath.
Yes.
Good.
Yes.
Good.
Thank you.
So there will be,
There won't be a restaurant.
I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
I don't know.
Don't know.
So we will, as part of the review, they will be having a pretty substantial covered platform for our walking pedestrians on Mitchell. So that will be kind of similar to what you've seen in other larger projects where there'll be a walkway that folks will be able to walk through in case something falls off. They'll be protected. And obviously the county's involved, their building departments involved with reviewing kind of how that will be set up to make sure that it's done appropriately. So that'll be showing up here very soon with a temporary secured platform through that area. So.
Miss Nina.
Shane, just a quick follow-up question on the city park rental rehabs. You were talking about some form of outreach in advance of it moving forward, notifications. Can you just explain to me what that is?
Yeah, so part of anytime there's CDBG funding involved, there's notices or letters that have to go out to any listed what's the classification grouping, but there's a number of folks that have to receive notification that this is happening to a historical structure. And so folks have a period of, I believe it's 45 days or maybe even 60 days to provide any sort of written comments that go on the record that are reviewed. And then that's part of the state's analysis to determine how this project moves forward. So
it's not folks in the vicinity necessarily, it's certain different entities.
Yep. And I don't have that listing of all that it went to, but the state has a checklist, an address list of these are all the folks that we need to get notifications to. So they have a certain period of time to get that written notification back to the state. So again, that process will expire on May 3rd. So we'll be able to read the comments if there are any, and then the state will address those concerns appropriately as part of that project.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Anyone else, council? Mr. Wagner.
Thank you. Mostly complimentary stated. I've had unsolicited compliments on the new entryway on Mitchell. People one who just came back from winter in Arizona and said, "Oh my gosh, that entryway, the signage is beautiful." He couldn't even imagine what that looked like before. So great job to your staff on that.
Yeah.
And then there's a gentleman whose name I can't remember, but I was at a conference called Making It in Michigan in Lansing last week. And I recognized him and I couldn't remember why. Tall, dark haired guys from Boyne City. He's the gentleman who helped Howard Properties through the Oprah process that we approved.
Tom Johnson.
Tom Johnson, yes. And he shared with me the story about how arduous the process was. Shortly after we approved the tax abatement, their construction costs went through the roof and they had to go back for more money, but never came back to us for any kind of different tax abatement. So it took forever, but it's fortunate. And he said it was a great project, well, a great effort that's going to turn into a great project.
Very good. Anyone else? Ms. Walker.
Sure, thank you. I did receive a little bit of feedback as well. Folks that were concerned about the cutting down of those big trees, but obviously got to see the forest for the trees there, and like it opened up the view shed. Somebody also commented that while it opened up the view shed, it opened up to the 3 vacant blighted properties at the gateway of Petoskey. So maybe that will be a little bit of an impetus for the owner of those 3 properties at Family Video, Mitchell Street Market, and 200 East Lake Street to hopefully do something about those properties.
Very good. Anyone else wish to speak? Okay. Thank you for your updates.
We did, didn't have that on my report, but we did receive at the end of last week our EV charging stations. So those will be getting installed over the next couple of weeks. So you'll be seeing those pop up.
All right. Now we move to old business. It's second discussion and possible adoption of the ethics ordinance. And I turn it over to Shane again.
This has obviously been something that we've been working on for a number of meetings. This is our second reading of this ordinance based on your feedback. I think we've crafted this to hopefully address your concerns and input. So tonight it's on for second reading and potential adoption.
Mr. Moore, you had an idea or a suggestion on it?
So as we lawyers do, with apologies, we read things more than once. And so when I read 26-8A.
Let us all turn there.
Yep. First paragraph, page 26. I just wanted to be assured that in a circumstance, certainly no reference to our current city manager, but if there was a concern about an ethical matter regarding a city manager, that the person with that concern would not have to go through the city manager in order to obtain an opinion from the city attorney. But as I read this as an attorney, not the attorney for the city, it seemed to me like we were okay because it reads that on questions directly related to the propriety of their conduct, that would be asking about our own conduct or the conduct of another elected official. So since the city manager is neither of those, it was my sense that the last sentence would not apply in that circumstance. But to be certain, I did call Matt Cross today just to see if he read that the same way I did. And he agreed with my thought that our request in that circumstance where it pertained to the city manager would not have to go through the city manager, which would be illogical. And the other question I just had for him was to understand that this requirement that we go through the city manager is a very narrow one that pertains only to this chapter regarding ethics opinions. And that was important to me since as a council, we retain counsel and should retain the freedom to access counsel as needed. So the bottom line of all that is, as far as I'm concerned, it's good to go.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the ethics ordinance.
I second the motion.
I will. No, okay. I take it to Sarah for a roll.
Wagner.
Yes.
Shields.
Yes.
Demore.
Aye.
Walker. Yes. Murphy.
Yes. Now we have new business, adoption of a proposed resolution that would allow resident taxpayers to file a protest before the Board of Review by letter, and I turn it over to our city manager, Shane Horn.
Thank you, Mayor. These next A, B, and C under new business are really housekeeping items. As you know, we council has hired a contractual assessor to really perform the duties of our city assessor across the city. So as he's reviewed our documentation, we are going through, the state does an audit of all the units, and it kind of cycles in a 5-year period. So Emmett County is due this year. So we'll be going through an annual audit of our assessing services and documents. So as our city assessor was going through, kind of going through the checklist of the audit and what was required during the audit, or what will be required during the audit, he noticed these 3 things. And in these cases, we've got some internal correspondence that was completed, but nothing that was ever that we could find anyway. And maybe there is out there and we just couldn't locate it, but we just want to make sure that it's not just an internal interoffice policy, but it goes through the process of city council. And so you may have seen this before, and I apologize if that's the case, but we just want to make sure that we're checking the appropriate boxes to make sure that when we do go through the audit that we have these policies in place. So our assessor has kind of compiled this information, again, more from a housekeeping standpoint for our upcoming audit.
So we should go through each of these individually to vote on them, however.
Yes.
And so the first is the adoption, the one on the taxpayer's ability to file. Do I have a motion?
So move that taxpayers be allowed to protest in writing to the Board of Review.
A motion from Ms. Demore, and I have a second from Ms. Walker. Any other discussion? Public? Ms. Beck?
Demore.
Aye.
Walker.
Yes.
Shields.
Yes.
Wagner.
Yes.
Murphy.
Yes, passes 5-0. adopt a proposed resolution that would approve personal property canvas policy as requested by the city assessor. Do I have a Mr. Shields,
Motion for approving personal property canvas policy as requested by the city assessor.
Mr. Walker, Wagner?
Support.
I have a motion from Mr. Shields, second from Mr. Wagner. Any other discussion? The public wants to weigh in on this. I think Sarah Beckford roll.
Shields.
Yes.
Wagner.
Yes.
Demore.
Aye.
Walker.
Yes.
Murphy.
Yes, motion passes 5-0. Lastly, adoption of a proposed resolution that would approve property tax exemption policy as requested by the city assessor. Do I have any discussion or possible motion?
A motion to approve.
Support.
I have a motion from Mr. Wagner, a second from Ms. Demore. Any other discussion, council? Does the public wish to address council on this matter? You do? Yes. Come on down, give us your, push the button, turn it from red to green, and give us your full name and full address.
James Ernst, 702 Elizabeth Street. Does the council really want to listen to us about giving the extensions to property taxes? You know, that's what I find amusing about this right here. You know, and what kind of exemptions are we talking about? Because parts of the city, or I should say public, is on fixed incomes and stuff like that. So are they going to continue to give exemptions about economical depression, I guess you'd call it, you know, or what? You know, I don't understand what the exemption's about.
You want to go into it?
So we're just following state these are state guidelines that we're adopting. So poverty exemptions, you'll look at how much you make, you know, your whole economic situation. So there's guidelines on how many people are in the house and how much you make to determine, do you qualify? Do you meet those thresholds? So we're adopting those state thresholds that typically will change from one year to the next, and we will change with it. But we need to have a policy that's adopted at the city level that kind of matches what the state allows us to do from an exemption standpoint.
And those include religious, library, charitable, educational, science institutions. Those type of things would be exempt from property taxes as well.
Very well.
Yep. Thank you for your question. So we have a motion from Mr. Wagner and a second from Mr. Moore. Any other discussion? Ms. Walker.
Thank you. Thank you, Shane, for explaining the context of why we're reviewing all these things. Can you tell me if every 5 years the state does an audit, did you find in the previous audit or the documents from the previous audit that there were any findings that we sense would need to correct, or was the previous audit that was done on our tax base here in the city of Petoskey at that time, was it found to be fine? And this is just because we have a new auditor that's making sure all the T's are crossed and all the I's dotted?
Yeah, I did not look to see, and I don't know when this process started. This could be the first cycle that we go through.
We did vote in the past on the exemptions, which is a
Yeah.
poverty exemption.
Yeah.
But we did not do the part on the exemption for the claimants of religious, library, etc. We never did address those, and I've been on council quite a while. We have never had those covered for us before. So it's probably just housekeeping that we just observed, but didn't codify or.
We would have had an inspection in 18, it looks like. So I don't know what those results were. I can certainly send you those if you were interested.
Are you still concerned about it?
No, that was just that was my question in regards to like what had been done before with the audit, and like if they had any findings, and then was this a result of like not completing those findings, or is this a brand new process with a new assessor? I just wanted a little more.
Yeah, I think it's just, this is this happens to be the way the cycle goes. This is our time. It doesn't matter that we have a new assessor that really didn't play into it. This was Emmett County's cycle in the audit process. So just unfortunately for us, bringing in a new assessor and having, him start, in a year that we're going to be going through an audit is not the greatest scenario, but we'll address things that come up and we'll address it and move forward.
Thank you.
More.
Fresh eyes are always
Yeah,
good.
absolutely.
As Tina mentioned to me on the side here, we did discuss the property tax exemption for poverty.
Right.
But we've never had it, that we've done it for the other pieces of it. Religious, library, etc. So we'll go for a roll.
Ready?
Yeah.
Wagner.
Yes.
Demore. Aye. Shields.
Yes.
Walker.
Yes.
Murphy.
Yes, motion passes 5-0. Our last issue for tonight on new business is adoption of proposed resolution that will establish dates and designate locations for the 2023 ward and city conventions. And I'm going to turn it over to Shane.
I'm going to likely defer to Sarah. Sarah's done a lot of due diligence on this topic, working with the state and the state election schedule and trying to get feedback on that. The feedback we heard from council, this has been 3-4 months ago, likely now, is the timing of our ward and city conventions in July. The thought was that it's a busy time. There's a lot going on. Is that the best time to have that sort of community type meeting and get together? It's obviously a very important discussion, and the result is very important as we leave those ward and city conventions. So was there a better, more conducive time to get more people engaged in the process?
So I asked Sarah, who's done all the research, what does the state, what are the parameters for a convention like this by the state?
There are none.
There are none.
They do not regulate conventions.
My concern to bring it earlier into June or May. I am sick and I'm tired of seeing campaign posters in yards, and for a small city like ours, I hope not to see those any earlier than they have to be there. And if we move it to May or June, we're going to start seeing when there are competitive election campaigns, we are going to see yard signs started in May, April, June, whenever we move this thing. So I would just as soon leave it where it is rather than open this up to more yard signs. I hate yard signs. We cannot regulate these yard signs. So by pushing this thing forward earlier, we are bringing more yard signs into our neighborhoods. Mr. Moore.
Well, since there are no apparent rules or regulations about this, and given the, at least in my experience, the low attendance in July, which is reasonable because everybody's so busy, could we not test drive doing it earlier this year? Since to my knowledge, there's only 2 things on the ballot, am I right? Which would be Ward 1 and Ward 3.
Right, technically just council member for each one of those wards.
So I
That's all
don't
they're voting on.
expect that there, excuse me, Sarah, I don't expect there will be a sea of signs. I could be wrong.
But we're setting a precedence. And I'd rather stay consistent somehow with the ability for people. And I do think it's really well attended. We have anywhere from 12 to 15 people attending. Every ward has those people there. When we've read off the names, we've got 12 to 15 people on every ward. Some wards have 15 and end up having alternatives that come in as well as attend. So, but I don't care. You guys decide. I'll fly with whatever. Ms. Walker.
I think that usually, I think the biggest concern that I had was it was the following week after the 4th of July. for myself organizationally, it takes a lot of effort. I do put time and effort into turning people out to the ward convention. And then to the city convention as well. So doing that at that time of year is kind of a moving target. It's not the best time to be door knocking and turning out people to an event, but I guess my concern or my hope that was maybe we would consider moving it to the week after the 4th of July. So in this context, I was hoping that maybe we would consider moving it to the week of July the 17th, which is a Monday, which is when you would hold the ward conventions, and then the city convention would be that Wednesday, July the 19th.
What would we do with city council on the 17th, which is the 3rd? Then we do not have a meeting on July 3rd, that Monday.
All right.
So we would have, are we canceling that meeting, which would mean we would have no city council for 6 or 7 weeks?
We have the option of switching the city council meeting to the second Monday in July and then doing the ward and city convention the 3rd week of July, or then maybe it's just keeping it the same.
I'm fine with that. Mr. Shields.
Unfortunately, I am not available that 3rd week of July. I'll be out of town.
Mr. Moore.
Mayor?
Yes.
Well, I've been involved in these for just 3 years, really, 3-4 years. And the first one I was at, we were in a very small room. It's before COVID happened and we moved to schoolrooms and we probably had 16 people. The 2 years after that in my ward, we had way less than 15. We had people getting on the phone, calling their friends to be delegates.
Okay.
And so that's why it came up. And I think June would be better.
I can tell you that I will not be here the last week of June.
So what about the 12th and 14th? And could there be a requirement or an understanding that signs don't go up till after the 4th of July? We can't regulate that.
We can do that.
No, and on top of that, like nobody's running for office until after the city convention. The candidates are approved there. And then the election doesn't happen until November.
So you say do it on the 12th and the 13th of June.
12th and 14th.
Okay. We're gonna have people saying, well, I can't attend because that's the first week of school getting out and I go on vacation that week.
I have no
I'm
idea.
just being a double advocate and throwing out.
It's not an easy time to schedule anything, actually.
If you do the 12th and 13th, I don't care. Yeah.
I'm not available on the 14th. I committed to something on the night of the 14th, so. But I agree with Brian's consensus that the closer to after when school gets out, it's a good time, I think. So. And then when would the city council meeting?
The 26th. Because we would not have one on the 3rd, so it would work out. We could have city council on the 26th. I won't be here, but carry on. Mr. Shields.
I've received just 2 comments, one saying that they're indifferent to a change in date and one saying that July is busy and they prefer earlier. I personally, I'm open. I think it's tough scheduling, finding a new date that everybody can agree on. So I'm okay if we can find a different date, but I'm also okay keeping the same. So I'm not hopeful here.
How about the 19th and the 21st of June? And we move city council on the 19th. Move it to the 26th. I won't be here, but I have a great replacement when I'm gone. I have full confidence in my replacement. I was gonna miss a meeting just so you could do it. It's extra pay, isn't it? Do you get extra pay for that? We'll make sure you get a little extra bonus in your check that week. Do you want to move? Are you good? Now, understand, Sarah has got to also clear this with the county for the use of the fairgrounds or find another place
And the schools.
and the schools. Do you want to tentatively look at the 19th and 21st?
I'm wondering if we should just keep it the same this year.
I'd like to give a try to the 19th and the 21st. That's my vote.
Geiger.
The reason I am saying earlier than that second week in July is because it's come up multiple times and I try not to forget things and stand by them. However, it's already the 1st of May and it's middle of June's not far away to be changing dates. So if we left it alone, I would continue to speak on behalf of moving it in the future.
Oh, guys, come on now. Mr. Moore.
Sarah, I mean, what's your input? Do you see this as problematic to try to move it on the timeline that lies ahead?
No, I don't think it's problematic. I think earlier is better than, I don't think a week later than the typical timing is feasible. One, because of affidavits of identity. Two, the delegates have to be, certified and you have to, people don't turn them in on the 19th after a sitting convention until sometimes like the Friday. So I think earlier is better or remaining the same. The only other comment I'll make is, moving it sooner. Again, I checked with legal counsel and the state. They don't regulate anything with conventions. It's in our charter. Nothing violates it. Just note that when you guys, or when conventions are held, that's when candidates are nominated. So if you have them in March, which could be done, and do people know that they're running in March? Doesn't mean that someone can't file a petition and get enough signatures and get on the ballot that way also. But just note that earlier, if people don't know if they're running, January, February, March of that year, people may need to be on their game. But
The other thing to keep in mind is we can change dates by charter, but we cannot change the time.
Right.
So 8 o'clock is in the charter and that will have to be the time.
and we also have to notify per the charter at least once prior to the convention. So I've always done it the week before, and then you also have to do it the day of. And the news review is tight deadlines also. So the sooner we know, the better. And so we can secure the locations. I'd imagine the schools would be fine. The Emmett County building, I can't speak of.
Is it right now, have you talked to them regarding our date that we do have for this date
Yes, both the schools and the county, and they both have the availability.
on the 10th and the 12th? What do you guys want to do? I'm throwing this out to you guys. Ms. Walker,
I don't know.
Mr. Wagner.
The other thing that we've talked about, and I think we're doing a much better job with, is communicating with our citizens. And I believe we can do even better and better at that. And if that's the answer, but part of the issue has been the news review, Facebook, however the heck people get their news without actually going to the city website. That may be a solution as well. So I'm a little bit indifferent.
Mr. Shields,
I support June dates.
Mr. Moore.
June dates.
And one option that we could do is our preferred is June, and we'll confirm those dates. We can lock those dates in. That's what we'll do so we don't have to wait if that's not possible, we'll lock in our normal dates so we can get it scheduled.
So we're looking at June 19th, Monday, the 19th. And Wednesday, the 21st of June for the city convention. However, if Sarah has difficulties tying a relationship with the county for the fairgrounds on that city convention on the 21st, we will revert back to the
10th and
10th and
12th.
12th of July, okay? All those, I don't know, we don't need a vote on this, do we? Yes, do I have a motion on what I just said?
They're all okay with the locations. Is that fine?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
So do I have a motion on my garbly blue I just gave? Mr. Wagner?
Support.
The preferred dates, which I had written down.
19th, 21st of June,
21. If that can't work out, then we go back to July.
10 and 12.
And we need a council meeting?
We would then have the council meeting. In that case, we'd move that to the 26th. Okay?
Yep.
Because we do not have a meeting that next week anyway, because of the 3rd. It would actually, for city council would fill in well to move that meeting to the 26th, because we do not have anything for those 3 weeks otherwise.
Support.
Okay, I got a motion from Mr. Wagner and a second from Mr. Moore. Any other discussion, council? Public wish to weigh in on this? Come on down.
James Ernst, 702 Elizabeth Street. I see you have some kind of dilemma about when you want to have this. And it's nice to have it in the summer because everybody's here in the summer of that. But, you know, you talk about signs and everything else. And why don't you do it after Labor Day and then you jam everything in together, you know, and just, you know, make an election cycle like it is. I know the schools will be in operation
The
and
reason
stuff
we
like.
can't do that is because we have the 25th of July.
That's your deadline?
That's the state's deadline for
Filing.
filing.
Okay.
And you have to file through the county, so we can't. We have to do it before that.
There's no exceptions?
No, there are no exceptions.
Okay.
Thank you for your question and your comment, however.
Well, I just thought, you know, you're gonna put everything into election cycle, you might as well put it all in there. And you talk about signs and everything in everybody's yard.
I would like to do it on October 1st or something like that personally, but.
Yeah, well, it'd be more convenient in some ways. But thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Roll.
Wagner,
Yes.
Demore. Aye. Shields.
Yes.
Walker.
Yes.
Murphy.
Yes. Good job, guys. Now. City council comment, I'll start with Ward 4, Miss Walker.
Well, I am looking forward to the Arbor Day celebration at the Winter Sports Park. As a spring break traveler, I've decided in my visit to St. Augustine, Florida, which is also a Tree City, USA, that moving forward, I'm only going to travel to tree cities throughout the United States and visit composting and recycling facilities.
Okay,
Thank you very much.
thank you for your support. Ward 3, Mr. Wagner.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a kind of observation and a thank you to all the volunteers we have in this town, the city. I know our Parks and Rec department has been short the last couple of years. And to see the Odawas, the Rotaries, the Kiwanis, all of these different groups, church groups, go out and clean up our roads and our shoreline and our trailways it's always just heartwarming.
Yay.
Ward number 2, Mr. Shields.
In Ward number 2, we continue to see wild amounts of deer. And I just keep blown away. It almost seems it's getting, in my opinion, worse. So I'm not sure what to do about it at this point. I've had a couple people in Ward 2 who've talked to me about that. So I'm going to put my mind to it. There may be a proposal I bring to this body at some point, but it's just we're letting you know that in Ward 2, we continue to have deer issues.
I know at some point, I think it was in cold weather, we talked about the possibility of taking a tour of the recreational properties, some of which I'm not even familiar with. And so I don't know if others are interested in that or if Kendall has the time to facilitate something like that. But theoretically, it's spring and it seems like that might be a good time to do that. So that's one.
Would you think that would be a work session? Like we would do a 5:30 drive around and then meeting, or do you want a separate time just for that?
Ms. Walker.
I don't know, I mean, maybe float the idea with the Parks and Rec Committee and see if they would want to host like a Saturday like event to check out all of our parks. Like I'd like to particularly see the Skyline Park with that recent investment in the past couple of years. So I don't know if there would be any suggestions or ideas coming from the Parks and Rec Committee and themselves about what that, because maybe those folks as well would want to get on board with something like that.
How about if we did just, because it's 20 minutes or so out there and coming back, maybe that would be one park that we would schedule with the Parks and Rec versus trying to do all our facilities. That is a ways out. It is large. Could we look at something with it? 3 years ago before COVID, we had the Parks and Rec went to every neighborhood and we sponsored picnics there. Okay, they came to Lockwood, they came to Curtis Park. The Winter Sports Park, they did 4 parks for the 4 wards and came there and met with people to listen to what they wanted. And possibly they'll look at maybe doing that again this year.
That sounds very nice, but for my part, it was more just kind of a tour of everything to get a sense of what's out there. And if we need to call it a work session or special meeting, I don't know. I think Kendall had some ideas about putting us all on board something to drive around and.
Yeah, we could get you on the trolley and do a drive about with pepper juice.
I just didn't know if it was of interest.
No judgment.
Facilities being like DPW facilities, or are you thinking about parks?
I was thinking more things that were in the recreational plan because there were things there that I was not aware of. That was my idea.
Okay, like the River Road.
Yes.
Soccer complex or the disc golf thing or something. Are you talking like that?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, why doesn't Shane work with Kendall and come back with us and give us some ideas at the next meeting?
Okay. I have one other.
Oh, go for it.
That's okay. So I just want to indicate on the record that today is Law Day, which was designated in 1961 as a national day set aside to celebrate the rule of law, which I think is a timely topic. This year, another timely topic is the theme. There's a different theme every year, and this year it's cornerstones of democracy, civics, civility, and collaboration. The American Bar Association encourages everyone to join in what I think is a very important endeavor, rebuilding trust in our institutions, respect for one another, and our willingness to collaborate to address the challenges that face our nation. And I encourage everybody, regardless of political affiliation, faith, whatever, to embrace those concepts. And just as a side note, I want to also say that every year on Law Day, the Emmett Charlevoix Bar Association gathers to present the Liberty Bell Award. This award recognizes outstanding service performed by a non-lawyer citizen who has given of his or her time and energy to strengthen the effectiveness of the American system of freedom under law. And this year's award was given posthumously to Gina Russi, who was the longtime magistrate of the 90th District Court here in Petoskey, which is often called the People's Court because of the degree to which it interacts with the community. We were pleased to honor Gina for her longtime contributions above and beyond to the legal system, which included things like bringing the Michigan Supreme Court to Petoskey, among many other things. So thank you for allowing me to honor her in this way.
Thank you very much for sharing that. It's so important. The one thing I have is, I call this our Garden Club Junior Varsity. Kendall came to me and said, boy, we're shorthanded. We have Pennsylvania Park to plant. The Garden Clubs does all the great boxes, does all of the other places. And so I brought in 10 or 12 people to help plant Pennsylvania Park. We're going to be doing that on the 25th of May at 9 o'clock. They set up, it gives you a quick rundown on what, where and what. And I'm just wondering if get it back with me if you're interested and give me your name. And we'll see if we can get at least a dozen people that are interested in participating in that. It's the more that participate, the less. It was only 2 or 3. He thought we were going to be there the whole day. And we were there 2 or 3 hours and did the whole Pennsylvania Park. It's by the memorials, the war memorials, a couple corner areas. And so it just pitched in and to help staff. And I call us the Garden Club Junior Varsity. Yes.
Do you want us to outreach this to constituents?
I don't know if we need that as much as just, I need 12 good people.